Being 7 o'clock, we'll call the meeting to order. Roll call, please.
Mayor Bospas.
Here.
Commissioner Baker.
Here.
Commissioner Collins.
Here.
Commissioner Gary.
Here.
Commissioner Miller.
Here.
Commissioner Talentino.
Here.
Commissioner Torty.
Here.
Okay, well, please stand and join us in the Pledge of Allegiance. Okay, thank you very much. Those with cell phones, if you would please put them on vibrate or turn them off, we would appreciate it. Thank you. Item B on the agenda, introduction and swearing in of probationary firefighter paramedic Charles Perini III, City Manager.
Thank you, Mayor. At this time, I'll invite Chief Labani and our newest member, Mr. Perini, to the flag.
Evening, Scott.
Good evening, Mayor and Commissioners. Before I get sworn in, I just want to take a minute to give you some background on our newest probationary firefighter recruit. Today I have the pleasure of introducing you to Charles Perini. Charles was born in Coral Springs, Florida, and lived there for several years until he moved with his family to Mackinac Island. Charles continues to work on his bachelor's degree in fire science and paramedicine at Lake State while being employed with us. And Charles enjoys going hiking with his 2-year-old son all over this end of the UP. I'll now ask our Deputy City Manager, Robin Troyer, to administer the city's oath.
Okay.
I do solemnly swear that I will uphold the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of this state, and that I will faithfully discharge the duties of office of firefighter, paramedic, in and for the city of Sault Ste. Marie, County of Chippewa, and State of Michigan, according to the best of my abilities.
Thank you.
Congratulations, welcome.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Thank you very much. And best wishes to the young man. Great. And your family. Item number 2 is the National Friends of the Library Week. And I understand we have Jean Wellington here. And Jean will join me at the podium. We have a proclamation for her. Thank you. The City of Sault Ste. Marie National Friends of Libraries Week Proclamation. Whereas Friends of Bayless Public Library raise money that enables our library to move from good to great, providing the resources for additional programming, much-needed equipment, support for children's summer reading, and special events throughout the year. And whereas the work of the Friends highlights on an ongoing basis the fact that our library is a cornerstone of the community, providing opportunities for all to engage in the joy of lifelong learning and to connect with the thoughts and ideas of others from ages past to present. And whereas the Friends understand the critical importance of well-funded libraries and advocate to ensure that our library gets the resources it needs to provide a wide variety of services to all ages, including access to print and electronic materials, along with expert assistance in research and readers advisory and children's services. And whereas the Friends' gift of their time and commitment to the library set an example for all, volunteerism leads to positive civic engagement and the betterment of our community. Now therefore be it resolved that I, Mayor Anthony G. Bospa, do hereby proclaim October 21st to the 28th, 2018 as Friends of Libraries Week in Sault Ste. Marie, Michigan, and urge everyone to join the Friends of Bayless Public Library and thank them for all they do to make our library and community so much better. In witness thereof, and here and set my hand to cause the seal of the City of Sault Ste. Marie to be affixed this 15th day of October 2018. Anthony G. Bospas, Mayor. Jean, congratulations.
Thank you.
And you'd like to say a few words?
Yes,
Thank you.
thank you. I'm Jeannie Wellington. I am the current president of the Friends of Bayless Library. We have a couple of our other board members here as well. Barbara Grunfeld in the blue jacket, Nancy Gillot, who is currently our treasurer. I do have a few words to say about this. We appreciate the proclamation that you have just issued on our behalf. We appreciate that you have drawn attention to National Friends of Libraries Week and our local Friends Group. We have actually had a Friends Group here in Sault Ste. Marie since the days of the old Carnegie Library, as the first group was formed in 1961. Our current Friends Group has been active since 1990, supporting and enhancing Bayless Public Library. Over the past 28 years, we have been able to raise and give to the library more than $76,000. This money has been used to purchase such items as public access computers, telephone system, carpeting and equipment for the community room, children's and young adult programming, landscaping, wireless access in the historical steer room, shelving and furniture, as well as books, DVDs, newspaper subscriptions, and air conditioning. We have accomplished this through our annual fundraisers, which include our 3 book sales, our spring sale, our summer book sale, and our holiday book sale, an annual silent auction, which begins next week and runs to November 3rd, our annual Valentine's Sweet Sale, and our newest ventures, which are an ongoing book sale within the library and a coffee bar within the library. Our annual membership fee remains at $10 a year. We have about 170 members, of which Mayor Bospus is one, I know, as is Oliver Turner. And we welcome any new members who wish to join. Thank you for the opportunity to bring awareness to the Friends of Bayless Public Library. We feel that we have a very fine public library, and we work very hard to support it. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, Gene, and certainly on behalf of the commission, thank you and the Friends of Public Library, Bayless Public Library, for the efforts that you do. $76,000, an awful lot of money. So I'm sure the library appreciates it, and they wouldn't be the great library they are without your contributions. Thanks again. Okay, item C is the consent agenda, or I'm sorry, public notice or public comment. If there's anyone in the audience like to speak on an agenda item, you may identify yourself now for the record. We would appreciate it. And then when we get to that item, you'll be given an opportunity to speak. So is there anyone in the audience like to speak on an agenda item? Yes, ma'am.
Sierra Krantz, and it's item F3.
F3? And your name?
Sierra Krantz.
Yeah, there. Sierra. Thank you. Anyone else? Okay, thank you. Item D is the consent agenda. Deputy City Manager.
Under the consent agenda, 1, approval of the City Commission meeting minutes of October 1st, 2018. Item 2, approval of the special City Commission meeting minutes of October 1st, 2018. Item 3, acceptance of the Community Services Board meeting minutes of September 25th. Item 4, acceptance of the Economic Development Board meeting minutes of September 11th. Item 5, acceptance of the Planning Commission meeting minutes of August 23rd and September 27th. Item 6, acceptance of the PEHP Police Patrol Unit meeting minutes of September 24th. Item 7, acceptance of the City of Sault Ste. Marie Police and Fire Pension Board meeting minutes of August 22nd. Item 8, acceptance of the Zoning Board of Appeals meeting minutes of May 17th, August 16th, and October 3rd. Item 9 is appointment of Kane Vandermolen and Patrick Brewster to the Community Services Board to fill the balance of terms to expire on July 1, 2021. Item 10 is authorization to adjust city healthcare thresholds effective January 1, 2019. Item 11 is approval of a resolution to exempt the city from provisions of Public Act 152 of 2011. Item 12 is authorization of a request from 1285 Easterday Enterprise LLC, which is UP Auto Group, to release easement rights over the full width of the easterly 120 feet of the previously vacated Hopkins Street and the full width and length of the north-south alley within Block 7, all within Greenough and Rains Addition. Item 13 is scheduling of a public hearing on a resolution to vacate the full width of the east-west alley within Block 2, William Greenhouse Addition, without the retention of utility easements for the November 5th, 2018 City Commission meeting. Item 14 is scheduling of a public hearing on a resolution to vacate the full width of West 7th Avenue between Blocks 3 and 6, Foss and Hyde 2nd Edition, and between Blocks 2 and 7, Foss and Hyde 2nd Edition, without retention of utility easements, and the vacation of the full width of West 13th Street between West 6th Avenue and West 8th Avenue, within Foss and Hyde 2nd Edition, with retention of utility easements for the November 5th City Commission meeting. Item 15 is scheduling of a public hearing on single lot special assessment rolls SL-2N-18 and SL-2W-18, and an updated list has been distributed to the Commission on the dais this evening. Item 16 is scheduling of a public hearing of necessity for sidewalk replacement program special assessment SW-03-18. Item 17 is authorization of a contract amendment for the construction inspection services for the I-75 Business Spur project. Item 18 is acceptance of a report on the firefighter right to know program. Item 19 is from the Downtown Development Authority, establishment of local matching grants for Kalia Properties Incorporated. And item 20 is approval of the consent agenda items as presented.
Okay, thank you very much. Is there any commissioner that has a question or comment on the consent agenda? Commissioner, I'm sorry.
Gary.
Ron, yes.
I have a question for the city attorney. On item D15, the single lot assessment, I work for USDA Rural Development, and USDA Rural Development owns a house on 1620 something or other, Kimball, and was listed for some grass cutting fees, which I was unaware of, and that's handled by a different department than I manage. Should I vote or abstain from that?
In my opinion, you should vote.
Thank you.
Okay. Any other questions? Commissioner Twardy.
I move that we approve the consent agenda.
Support.
It's been moved and supported. Are there any questions? Roll call, please.
Mayor Bosmas,
Yes.
Commissioner Baker,
Yes.
Commissioner Collins,
Yes.
Commissioner Gary,
Yes.
Commissioner Miller,
Yes.
Commissioner Talentino,
Yes.
Commissioner Twardy.
Yes.
Motion carried. Thank you.
Item F, communications, one from the Economic Development Corporation, acceptance of a proposal to market the Air Industrial Park property.
Okay, thank you. City Manager.
Thank you, Mayor. EDC Executive Director Jeff Holt is here tonight to present to the City Commission.
Evening, Jeff.
Good evening, Mayor, Commission. Thank you for this opportunity. In August, the EDC put together a request for proposals for a firm to market our industrial park properties in and around our airport. Altogether, 13 lots available that we've identified and have had surveyed, and we'd like to broadcast that those lots are available for interested parties to carry out our objectives on that airport property. After the RFP process went through the proper channels, we did receive a proposal from Smith & Company, and they have presented what we think is a very good and solid proposal for us to carry out our mission, and that is to get the property on the tax rolls and getting revenue rolling in that property. Several items I'd like to point out. After the listing is approved, there'll be signs going up and get the bids lots listed on various real estate websites, and including our own, and taking advantage of the Michigan Economic Development Corporation tools that they have. Press releases, of course, developer end user outreach list, that'll be in November, and again, update our website and social media campaign, and develop strategy and marketing plan with the real estate firm Smith & Company. Review the final plan and select price and promotional campaigns. That'll be with us in the TIFA funding. And then roll out the first stage of promotional campaign. We're looking at January to start all that process. Our goals, as indicated, is we want to invest or divest select city-owned properties, and to foster the comprehensive business-friendly climate that we do have, and of course the creation of wealth. So,
Any question? Commissioner Tuardi.
I just wanted to make a comment. I think it's great that you received a bid from a local company, and because I know that's a city commission goal, is trying to work with local companies. So congratulations to Smith. And I have used them personally for various other jobs in my business purchasing life, and they do a great job. They're very aggressive, and I think we'll be settling with a contract really soon. I'm hoping so anyway.
yeah, they're raring to go and anxious to get ready and get started.
Any other questions? City Manager?
Thank you, Mayor. I would contribute to that presentation by Mr. Holt that this type of effort takes a significant level of input from committees and stakeholders, and the EDC has certainly done its due diligence. As the director mentioned, it's in line with City Commission goals, and just appreciate their work to continuously innovate for moving properties back onto the tax rolls and to facilitate development.
Okay, thank you. Commissioner Talentino.
Sure. I'd like to make a motion to accept the proposal from Smith & Company Real Estate of Sault Ste. Marie, Michigan to market the Air Industrial Park property as laid out in the attached agreement for terms of 6 months, and to authorize the city manager to execute the listing agreement.
Support.
It's been moved, supported. Are there any questions? Thank you.
Thank you.
Roll call, please.
Commissioner Baker?
Yes.
Commissioner Collins?
Yes.
Commissioner Gary?
Yes.
Commissioner Miller?
Yes.
Commissioner Talentino?
Yes.
Commissioner Tuardi?
Yes.
Mayor Bosmas?
Yes. Motion carried. Thank you.
Item 2 under communications is presentation and update from the Malcolm Park Pride Working Group, co-chairs Kevin Pomeroy and Linda Beauvais.
Okay, thank you. Just let them go. Okay. Welcome back. The duo.
Good to be back.
Great.
We've come here today just to give you a little update of where we're at as far as our matching funding for the state, $50,000 matching grant through the Michigan Economic Development Corporation. We started out quickly, and things are going very, very well. I'd like to kind of put it back on the people that have used the facility before, the parents of the people that have come through and had to have used the facility without these improvements, and to look at what this is going to do for the future users of that area of the complex between the softball fields and softball field at Losey Field. It's just going to be a huge improvement. So if you are alumni, if you are a former parent of people that went through not having concessions, not having restrooms, not being able to really give your child the best experience possible, this is a way to give a small amount or a large amount, whatever you feel deemed, and also get a matching fund from the state. So the city of Sault Ste. Marie gets some state money back into our community. There is a number of great things happening up there, not just this project. We've been working with Dan Wires and Jim Moreau and Oliver Turner for the last 2-3 years, and we have a plan in place that in 2 or 3 years, people are not going to recognize Malcolm. So this is just one step of a complete renovation and overhaul of that facility. And so now is the time to get on board and really, in a few years, be proud of what we're going to accomplish. Linda, actually Robin has our website up, and so if you want to just kind of go through it and explain how the website is, and they can see it at home and how easy it is to give. You can also give through the Chippewa County Community Foundation if you're not comfortable going online, and we can go on a back door and get matching funds through that way. So if people feel more comfortable, they can write a check, get it to one of the members of our organization, or get it to Chippewa County Community Foundation, and we can get those matching funds that way.
Question, the number up there right now, is that how much you've raised so far?
Yes.
Excellent. Okay,
Linda.
excellent. And you have till November 30th?
I think, yes, December 1st, I think, is our cutoff date.
Okay.
And a couple things. We actually have exceeded that number. We just don't have everything entered yet because I have to wait to get canceled checks or deposit slips from the Chippewa County Community Foundation before I can add them into this system, because we will get audited on the back end of this. And it's very simple to input money. One thing I have noticed, every time we have a little spurt of publicity, we do get quite a few donations in. So every little bit helps whenever we can get the word out, whether it's social media or regular media or word of mouth. It really seems to make a difference.
Sure, and it's not so much, you like the larger donation, but you'll accept anything, and a lot of people, as Kevin said, have gone through that complex or have been involved in softball or women's softball or baseball, and everybody's going to be affected by the new improvements. So it's just it's a worthy cause, so making sure that we spread the word. And I saw the brochures, and that information is good. And where can you get those? Are you putting them out amongst the community?
You can stop by National Office Products and pick those up, or any one of our board members has brochures available too.
Okay.
And I can actually leave some here tonight.
Okay. Commissioner Baker.
Yeah, this is a great program. You guys have done a great job, so I'm super excited. I have no doubt that we're going to reach that goal by December 1st, and it's super easy to donate. Maloney's donated. You can, if everybody donated $5, it adds up so quickly. So we'll keep pushing on the support, and we'll get it done. So thanks, guys, for all your work. Appreciate it.
Yes, part of this funding that we are getting is part of our kickball tournament too.
Okay.
Through the state, they allowed us to use some of those proceeds to put on the back door. So through the efforts of this summer of the kickball tournament extravaganza and everybody that was involved in that brings those additional dollars back into the Sioux also.
Excellent. Excellent. Good luck. Yeah, keep coming back.
Any questions?
Questions?
Thank you very much.
Okay. That also is an example of what crowdfunding, and this will be the third crowdfunding effort that we've put into the community, and the other two were very successful. We're hoping that, and it should be successful too with the leadership that's there. So, thank you very much.
The next item under communications, item 3, is from the Ethics and Conduct Board, determination of Code of Ethics and Conduct complaint.
Okay, thank you. City Attorney.
As you know, this matter was tabled from the last meeting to allow the Jorgensens to seek an attorney if they wish to. Between the last meeting and this Friday, Abby Baker sued the city of Sault Ste. Marie, Michigan in circuit court here in Chippewa County to have the ethics ordinance declared unconstitutional for one of two reasons. Either that it does not provide sufficient due process to her.
You gotta get closer.
Closer. Either it does not supplies sufficient due process under the Constitution to her as an accused, and/or it violates her First Amendment rights to free speech, meaning that the provisions in the ordinance which propose to govern a commissioner's speech in public violate the First Amendment to the Constitution. Since the lawsuit has been filed, it is impossible for us to confidently move forward with reviewing the ethics complaint and following the ordinance requirements for the review process, as the court may decide some or all of the procedures outlined in the ethics ordinance violates the constitutional requirements of due process and/or the Constitution's requirements of freedom of speech. Without getting into the weighing the provisions of the lawsuit against the ordinance, it is a sufficiently broad challenge that there's really nothing left that the commission can do that might not be undone by a court at a later date. So because of the filing of the lawsuit and the court being now required to undertake an analysis of the ordinance from a due process and First Amendment perspective, my recommendation at this time is that the City Commission take no further action in prosecuting the ethics complaint until the court provides additional guidance as to whether the procedures outlined in the ordinance satisfy due process and freedom of speech requirements.
Let me ask if could someone, could we dismiss the complaint at any time? Or?
Dismissal of the complaint would not be prosecution under the ethics ordinance. Therefore, the court would have no issue with the dismissal of the complaint. So you wouldn't be on untested ground, so to speak, with that.
So the court would have no problem with that?
The court should not have a problem with that.
Okay. So okay.
It's the continued prosecution of the ordinance in light of the due process and First Amendment questions raised that the court may modify your actions, and that's why I don't want you to take any actions in that regard and have them modified at a later date.
Okay, thank you. Commissioner Miller.
Well, this is quite a mess. I don't know how it got this far out of hand. If I make a motion to dismiss the ethics violations, will that stop the lawsuit?
Not necessarily, but it may.
It seems like a lawsuit that drags out for a long time wouldn't be very productive. I move that we dismiss the alleged ethics violations against Commissioner Baker.
Is there support?
Support.
It's been moved, supported. Any discussion? Commissioner Gary.
We got an email today, I think, towards the end of the day from the Jorgensens. I'd like to read if I could.
Sure.
It starts, I've been hired by the Jorgensen family to act as their spokesperson to address issues related to the alleged unethical behavior by a city commissioner. These allegations were presented by the City Commission on October 1st, 2018, but were tabled to tonight's meeting in order for the Jorgensens to confer with council. While the Jorgensen family had hoped to have their concerns addressed in a timely manner, Ms. Baker has apparently elected to initiate a lawsuit against the City of Sault Ste. Marie. At this juncture, it would be inappropriate and irresponsible to engage in any further discussion of this matter while litigation is pending, and the Jorgensen family has agreed to wait for a resolution to this lawsuit before addressing any concerns directly with the Commission. And it was thank you from James A. Bias, Attorney at Law.
Thank you. In that regard, let me just say that commissioners Commissioner Baker's attorney, when he got up the first time, did not mention any of the allegations. We have it in writing. We have the Jorgensen's complaint in writing. We have Commissioner Twardy's letter. We have, I think, the gentleman that works for Marchetti's statement. And then Commissioner Baker has also written her thing, and that was all part of our packet. So when Attorney Dobiash got up and spoke, he spoke about the ordinance and didn't say anything about, as I recall, anything about the complaint other than the ordinance has some problems. So we have everything in writing before us. I also think that we spent an awful lot of administrative time, and it's only going to get more expensive from here. And I remember in just the budget process alone, we talked about some needs for about some money to do some things in the community and we didn't have the money then, and we're already spending general fund money and administrative time on this. And I think, as the attorney said, it is actually between two business entities, and I think it ought to be resolved at that level, either with a professional mediator or whatever that those parties want to do. But it doesn't, I believe, also belong at this table. Commissioner Gary, one more time.
Sure. I had come tonight, I guess, not expecting for us to discuss, debate, or deliberate on this topic because of the lawsuit, and then discussion, I think, with several others had thought that it would, there's a possibility it would be tabled or dismissed. I don't think we've followed, the question of whether or not the ordinance is fair, I guess, is for the court or for our city attorney to argue. I'm very disappointed not only with the fact that we have an ethics complaint in front of us, but with the process that we have ill followed. I think we've done a terrible job of interpreting the process. I think we've skirted around it. We're talking about due process over and over, but where's the due process for the people that are alleging it? We had at the last meeting, you introduced the item, and then Commissioner Baker's attorney got to speak. It wasn't her item. How did their attorney get to speak first? How did the people that alleged there was a wrongdoing not know that they had an attorney? They could have brought an attorney. Tonight they didn't come because they thought that because of the pending lawsuit that we would not be able to talk about the issue. And I just read that email. I'm saying that both parties need due process. Not just the protection of Commissioner Baker, and not just the protection of the Marchettis or the Jorgensens. We have not heard their side from their mouths. We got the one complaint. But if we sweep this under because of a threat of a lawsuit, we're doing a huge disservice for a family that has been rooted in this community for a long time. They've run that business for over 70 years. They've never had a complaint against the city commissioner. And they do this time, and I think they need to be heard. As well as I think Commissioner Baker needs to be heard. I think we have totally screwed this process up. And I'm ashamed and embarrassed. Okay. And I would hate to see it dismissed until we find out what the court says. Is our ethics ordinance legal, enforceable, or not? We as a commission were supposed to weigh in as to whether or not we thought it was a major or a minor offense. We haven't even done that. That was the first course of action in the ordinance. The first course. We should have done that last week, and we could have moved forward or moved on or stopped it. It's a travesty.
Okay. Okay, we follow the advice of our city attorney, who has many years, in fact, went through the process with the tribe when the city at one time was at odds with the Sioux tribe, and we put that to bed, and we've come forward a long way from there. So yeah, this is our first occurrence with that kind of an ordinance, but when the city attorney maps out a plan on what he thinks the process is, that's what the process will go, and that's why I believe Commissioner Baker, that it was an allegation against a sitting commissioner. And maybe you'd like to speak to that process, but that is why, and again, when the Attorney Dobiash got up, he did not speak specifically of the allegations because they were written in front of us, much like the Jorgensen's information was written in front of us. I think we read it, we determine at that point, and we have an ethics group that is a committee that cannot, as I understand it, adjudicate, only the commission can, but we can also dismiss. And that's what the motion is at this point, I understand. Sure, Commissioner Collins.
Yeah, I just want to say that I do agree with Commissioner Geary on the fact that I think the process has been a travesty. There's no question about that in my mind. The other thing is that even if you look at the code the way it is right now, just so that you guys know where I'm at, I don't see that there's any violation from a conduct or an ethical standpoint, and I look more on the ethical side. And again, this is just my opinion. But the reality is, for me, is who are we to police each other when it comes to how we talk to somebody or what we say in an email? Now, if you make a threat to somebody about, hey, I'm going to do such and such because I'm a commissioner, you're just one vote. And again, I don't think that that's necessarily a ethical issue until you actually do something to try to enforce it or put it into action. And now again, when you're looking at the code, it's all pretty vague as far as the conduct portion of it. But if you're talking about swearing in public, I'm guilty, right? If you're talking about doing inappropriate things or having conversations with possible clients or wholesalers that I deal with, you know, I'd hate for you to follow me around for a day. I guess the other thing that I have to say with that is that at the end of the day, the public is the ones who elect us. If they have an issue with Commissioner Baker, then they can choose not to elect her the next round. And the major question that I have in my mind is this. If this dispute was not if Commissioner Baker was not a commissioner, where would this be resolved?
City Attorney?
Assuming that the allegations against Commissioner Baker do not rise to a violation of law, they would not be resolved.
So do I still have the floor? So that's my point. My point is that although I feel for the Jorgensens, and I've been friends with them for a long time as well, I don't necessarily agree with some of the things that Commissioner Baker has possibly done or supposedly done as far as how what has been said. But again, I don't believe it's my role to make that determination as whether or not it's right or wrong. And I don't believe that it should have ever came to this level as a commissioner. And the flaw in my mind is that a lot of this should have been done and flushed out at the ethics committee. So I just wanted you to know kind of where I'm at and why I'm going to vote to dismiss it.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else? Commissioner Gary.
Just in response to that, the ordinance is there. You took an oath to uphold the ordinances of the city of Sault Ste. Marie. Like it or not, we have to do so. And the city attorney's recommendation was that we don't take action on it tonight. That did not mean we have to dismiss it. That means we could table it until the court provides additional guidance on their lawsuit as to the viability of the policy. So are you going to dismiss it based on, I don't like the policy, or is it a legal and lawful policy? We don't know that at this point in time. And as the mayor indicated, our city attorney wrote the policy, and it's been there since whatever year it was written, 2007?
2011.
Hasn't been tested.
Yeah, or 7.
But he is a competent attorney, and he wrote the policy based on existing law, so.
Okay. Commissioner Collins.
So I'm going to vote to dismiss it, being that I don't find that there's credible evidence in what has been presented to basically enforce anything with inside the code. I mean, there's only one section in here that we're even talking about, okay? It's section, what is it? 5, what section is it, Steve? Standards of conduct. And you go underneath standards of conduct, you go down to N1, conduct the code of board of commission, right? And there's only one sentence in there that even portrays to anything that we've even talked about. It says conduct such as name calling, yelling, screaming, using fighting words, threatening retribution, or similar activities shall be prohibited. Okay, so now you've got prohibited of these things that are out there. We've got stalking allegations, no police report. First thing you do, I don't care what it is, had it happen to me this year. You go down and you do a police report, right? You start the process. When you talk about screaming, fighting, using fighting words, now you've got hearsay inside there. You're going to bring in witnesses that are going to say, yeah, I heard it, you know, this and that and the other thing. The bottom line is that to me, when I look at this, even at the end of the day, it's not up to us to make that decision as far as whether or not there should be anything done in that manner. I don't really see anything in here that should have even been at the commission level. To me, when you start talking about ethics and conduct, I want to look at things like, are you doing things for personal gain? Are you using your position to get your picture in the paper to promote your business? Are you basically using your position to get a better job? Are you using your position for some financial gain or to harm somebody else? I don't see, when you look at this, that there's anything other than a business disputes between two business owners. Yes, Abby Baker is a commissioner. Did she violate ethics and conduct code inside the city commission as a commissioner? My answer to that is no. And I don't think it needs to go any further for me to make that decision. I know it doesn't need to go any further for me to make that decision.
Okay, thank you. Commissioner Miller.
I agree with Commissioner Collins. Also, I have a problem with commissioners policing other commissioners. That's what the voters are for. Like you said, if somebody doesn't like what we do, they don't have to vote us in again. They can actually start a recall if they want to recall somebody. I have a problem with us policing each other.
Okay. I'm going to call a question.
Commissioner Collins?
Yes.
Commissioner Gary?
Nope.
Commissioner Miller?
Yes.
Commissioner Talentino?
No.
Mayor Bosphus?
Yes. Motion carried. 3-2. Thank you. We won't have any comments from the, but if you want to wait till public comment time, that would be great. That's fine. Okay, you don't mind? Thanks. Okay, we're into item number G, the city manager's report.
Thank you, Mayor and Commission. Item 1 under the City Manager's Report is to provide authorization to waive the bidding process and approve the purchase of a Physio LifePak 15 heart monitor. On this matter, Chief Labonte will present to the Commission.
Welcome back, Chief.
Thank you. Good evening again. I'll try and keep my presentation as short as possible. Notice tonight, no show and tell. As you've already reviewed in your commission packets, the fire department is once again seeking approval to purchase a new LifePak heart monitor defibrillator for the second year of a 5-year replacement project. As they stated last fiscal year, when the last heart monitor purchase was made, the fire department's paramedics have been using LifePak monitors for over 2 decades and have demoed several heart monitors from other manufacturers with no desire to move away from the Physio LifePak family of heart monitor defibrillator projects. Also, we have a large commitment as far as consistency goes to be compatible with city AEDs, county AEDs, as well as AEDs used on tribal property and at War Memorial Hospital. So consistency obviously plays a large factor in not having to utilize crossover cables and things that take up precious time. The total cost of a LifePak 15 as specified per per current and future protocol requirements is $44,733. Should be mentioned that the LifePak Physio Striker Company is offering $5,000 worth of trade-in money of one of our older units, as well as $7,925.04 worth of loyal customer discounts, which brings the project $4,507 and change below what was budgeted for it, which is pretty exciting. So to move forward with this, if I'm not mistaken, 3 motions are going to be required to take place. One motion to suspend the competitive bidding process for this purchase. 2, motion to increase the capital equipment budget for this purchase by $300 to provide for the overage before discounts are applied. And 3, and finally, motion to authorize the purchase of a new LifePak 15 at a net cost of $31,922.96.
Okay, any questions of the chief? City manager?
I appreciate that presentation from the chief. Just to reiterate and read into the record, there is a recommendation to waive the bidding process under Section 12 of the city charter for the reasons that both manufacturers of products were field tested. The LifePak unit is completely compatible with the city's AED and the hospital's heart monitors without purchasing adapters. Purchasing from another manufacturer would require the purchase of additional equipment when used, would add additional time to emergency responses, and it's consistent with all other monitors, which reinforces existing training and the readiness of employees. As the chief mentioned, there are 2 motions recommended for the City Commission pertaining to the authorization for the purchase and adjusting the capital equipment budget. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. And we all know to waive the bidding practice, it's a 7-0 vote, so that would be the first motion, and then there would be 2 additional motions. There's 3 total. Let's go to Commissioner Baker.
Motion to suspend the competitive bidding process for the purchase of a CISO LifePak 15 heart monitor previously conducted for prior LifePak purchase.
Is there support?
Support.
It's been moved, supported. Any questions? Roll call, please.
Commissioner Gary?
Yes.
Commissioner Miller?
Yes.
Commissioner Talentino?
Yes.
Commissioner Tuorty?
Yes.
Mayor Bospas?
Yes.
Commissioner Baker?
Yes.
Commissioner Collins?
Yes.
Motion carried. Thank you. Commissioner Baker?
Motion to authorize the purchase of a new CISO LifePak 15 at net cost of $31,922.96. $36,993 expense less $5,000 trade-in revenue.
Support.
It's been moved, supported. Any questions? Roll call, please. Oh, sorry.
Commissioner Miller?
Yes.
Commissioner Talentino?
Yes.
Commissioner Tuorty?
Yes.
Mayor Bospas?
Yes.
Commissioner Baker?
Yes.
Commissioner Collins?
Yes.
Commissioner Gary?
Yes.
Motion carried. Thank you. And the last motion, Commissioner Baker.
Motion to increase the capital equipment budget for the purchase by $300 to provide for the overage.
Support.
It's been moved, supported. Any questions? Roll call, please.
Commissioner Talentino?
Yes.
Commissioner Tuorty?
Yes.
Mayor Bospas?
Yes.
Commissioner Baker?
Yes.
Commissioner Collins?
Yes.
Commissioner Gary?
Yes.
Commissioner Miller?
Yes.
Motion carried. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Have a good night.
Okay, thank you, Chief.
Thank you.
Item 2, under the city manager's report, would provide authorization to waive the bidding process and award a contract for sewer televising. On this matter, City Engineer Basista.
Evening, Linda.
Good evening, Mayor, Commission. As you are aware, we have a SAW grant, a little over $1 million, that we were receiving from the state for wastewater and storm sewer asset management. As part of that grant, televising sewers that were installed prior to 1974 are eligible for televising the condition under that grant. We applied for this grant back in 2012 to 2013. We were awarded it in 2015, and now we're here in 2018, and we're at the end of the grant, and all work has to be completed by the end of November. As part of the grant, a lot of the work was done in-house by the engineering department, and as opposed to when we applied for the grant, it was all assumed that it would be contracted consulting work, hence the amount of the grant. So we're here near the end, and we found that we have a significant amount of money remaining, and we'd like to do more sewer televising that are eligible under the grant. We determined that we could do about $100,000 worth of sewer televising still under the grant. Because the timing is short, normally we bid this work out, but because of the time frame, I did call up we've used 3 separate televising contractors during the course of the SAW grant, and we've evaluated all the work and their performances and have determined that Taplin Group was not only cost competitive, but had also supplied the data that we needed with the least amount of errors on time and completed the work on time. So I would like, and I did call Taplin. They do have a window of availability that they can do the televising. They're actually here in town now and ready to roll. And so I would just ask that we waive the bidding process and allow the city manager to execute a contract with Taplin Group for up to $100,000 for sewer televising services.
Okay, any questions? City manager?
Thank you, Mayor. And just as a matter of housekeeping, there are 2 motions associated with this. The first to waive the sealed bid requirement, and then the second for the execution of the contract, if it so pleases the commission. To reemphasize and to read in the record, the rationale for waiving the bidding process is first, the element of timeliness and the work which must be completed within a short period of time in order to fully take advantage of state funding. Second, if the state funding is not utilized, it will revert to the state being unused. Third, in the 2 previous bidding processes used, Taplin Group provided the most competitive pricing, and pricing is being held at equivalent rates to which has previously bid. And throughout the entire project, Taplin is the only provider that submitted deliverables timely and with the least amount of error, and the completion of the work is critical to the prudent management of the utility system. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Commissioner Miller? Two
So we have to
bids.
split this into 2 motions then?
Yes.
I move that we waive the sealed bids requirement for this project.
Okay.
Support.
It's been moved, supported. Are there any questions? Roll call, please.
Commissioner Twardy?
Yes.
Mayor Bosmas?
Yes.
Commissioner Baker?
Yes.
Commissioner Collins?
Yes.
Commissioner Gary?
Yes.
Commissioner Miller?
Yes.
Commissioner Talentino?
Yes.
Motion carried. Thank you. Commissioner Miller?
I move that we authorize the city manager to enter into a contract with Taplin Group LLC in an amount not to exceed $100,000 for sewer televising services being advantageous to the city.
Support. Is there support?
Support.
It's moved, supported. Questions? Roll call, please.
Mayor Bosmas?
Yes.
Commissioner Baker?
Yes.
Commissioner Collins?
Yes.
Commissioner Gary?
Yes.
Commissioner Miller?
Yes.
Commissioner Talentino?
Yes.
Commissioner Twardy?
Yes.
Motion carried. Thank you.
Item 3, under the city manager's report, would provide authorization for the creation of a recreation coordinator position. DPW Director Morrow.
Good evening. Over the past 4 months or so, the Public Works Department has increased our focus and dedicated more assets to the maintenance of our Parks Department and our park system as a whole. Some of the items we've been working on this
Hey,
past
Jim,
summer-
could you move the mic closer to, there you go.
Sure.
Thanks.
Some of the items we've been working on, a redo of the Chandler Park, over by Little Italy by Prospect and Sheridan. Number of drainage and utility improvements in the Malcolm Park area. And the start of a asset management plan for all the parks. And so far, the Parks Department this year has gotten done Malcolm Park, Sherman Park, Awney Campground, and Rotary Park. And that work is ongoing, of course. In addition to that, we're making some overall increased presence of the DPW throughout parks, and we're making a greater effort to communicate and assist the user groups that are involved in the parks. We're trying to make our presence just a lot bigger to the people that are volunteering. So, but in the course of the past 4 months, we've created a list of short and long-term goals that we want to achieve in the park system. And the creation of this recreational coordinator position is going to go a long way to meeting these goals. So I'd like to go through some of the things that we want this position to do. Let's go with some of the short-term goals. I mean, within the next 12 months, assuming we have the authorization to start hiring tomorrow. We want to manage the Sioux Seal Recreation Area. That's the job number one. And that's including the hiring and supervising of the DPW part-time workforce that we have. We want to provide oversight and direction to the Chippewa County jail crews. We want this position to do that. And more importantly, I want this position to give us input on the rate of return on our investment on this program. Last year, it's about $38,000 we spent on this, on the jail crew for the supervision of the jail crews. I'd like to find out what type of return we're getting on that. And this position, if the return is great, we'll keep going. If it's not, we'll have to change something up. But this position, one way or the other, will be involved in that decision. We want to continue writing the asset management program. The next ones up are Sioux Seal Recreation Area, Ashland Bay, Kent Marina, Historic Homes, and Voyager Island. Those are the next parks that we're going to be working on asset management. Want to, another short-term goal, assist and implement technological improvements to Awney Park, such as like online reservations, Wi-Fi and mobile apps. Dan Wires has already got a lot of work done on the online reservations. This person will help that going. And I have to give Bonnie Raphael a shout out too. She's been a big help with the Wi-Fi. And manage Awney Osborne Campground for the 2019 camping season under city-run operations. Our contract is up with our current operator, and we want to take a real good hard look at operating with city staff. So, and that will be the main funding source for this position. In addition, the position will allow further operational and personnel changes within the Parks Department. We're kind of restructuring things right now, and it's going to allow us to better focus on maintenance and improvements of our assets. The position will greatly lessen our Parks Department staff, our full-timer staff, the oversight of the part-time workforce that we have at a lesser cost, and it'll reduce overtime in the department, particularly in the winter months at the Polar. That's one of our goals of this position. I won't go into detail how that will happen, but just because of staffing changes will allow us to increase regular time work there, lower overtime work, which is significant sometimes. Some of the long-term goals, in excess of 1 year. The position will incorporate other city-owned assets into city-run operations, like we're shooting for at Awney. We have some other properties that we can incorporate into that management scheme. Again, this will be utilizing an ever-expanding part-time workforce. And that's, on that topic, to do the improvements that we want to do, we really need a well-trained and well-managed part-time workforce. Expanding our current union workforce size is simply, it's unrealistic, with the way things are. We need to utilize those well-trained, long-term employees for the construction, the heavy maintenance and the equipment use, and cross-training with other departments within the DPW. To do the improvements that we want in the park system, we have to utilize a part-time workforce. It's the trend. It's the way things are going. Mm-hmm. Anyway, so another thing, we want to research and facilitate the potential expansion of Sherman Park Campground. There's a big, large area behind the water plant, between the water plant and Sherman Park, that could be utilized into campground space. There's potentially up to from 75 to 100 campsites there that it could rival the earning potential that we get from Awney right now. So, and not only that, you have that many people there with disposable income, it would really be a kick to the local economy right there. Tanglewood, the potential redevelopment of the pump house, and all of us can remember 15, 20 years ago how busy Sherman Park was. Maybe something like that could really start that up again. Another long-term goal, I want to work with public and private groups in the planning and execution of events. We want to give DDA a better hand. We want to give Sioux Events a better hand, and the local volunteers that just really make our Parks Department and events really work. But one of the most important long-term goals, it will allow the flexibility in the DPW supervisory structure. Eventually, it will allow us to reduce from currently three department heads down to 2 department heads. Okay, we can have a utilities director, and we can have call it a public services director, somebody who runs streets and parks. We have to look at the reality of right now. I'm in my 26th year. Dan's in his 20th year. Eric Fountain, our street superintendent, is his 18th year. So we have to start thinking seriously about our succession. You know, what's going to happen. And we need to get these people in place now to get them trained and get things rolling where it's seamless, and to give the city manager options in the future where he's not put into a box. So that's one of the things that we're looking at. The funding for this position would come from combinations of sources, but it's primarily coming from the self-management of Ani. Ani Osborne is a money-making property. It's really the only money-making property, with the exception of possibly Harvey, but to a little bit. But Ani makes some money, you know. So we have to. It's going to come from that. The long-term funding will also be from one less department head in DPW. That's another place we're going to save some money in the long term, and overtime in the puller, and some other smaller things. It really is something we've been working toward a long time to really streamline the department, make it more efficient and more reactive to our customers. So anyway, so I want to just close this out that Ani is a big part of the position, and so I know people are looking at it. We're going to be under somewhat of a microscope for operations. It's going to be a high priority for us, Dan and I, and we're going to try our best to make it work, and I have every confidence that we will, because we're going to hire somebody great for the job. So that's
just a comment, and it's a huge undertaking, and you're right about Ani Osborne being a moneymaker for the city, and that's, if you look at the history, it was run by private business, and the private business person, they live that summer, you know, for the most part, because they are not, you know, not just a 9-to-5 employee. You're down there all the time. You have staff. You take care of the grass. So it's a huge undertaking for the city, and it's going to take a special person that's committed to make sure that this goes on. And I know, you know, Commissioner Baker and some of the newer commissioners had some focus on park and the how we can improve that, and it was one of the priorities that we adopted as a commission. So it's nice to see that it's the possibilities, you know, going forward. It's a huge step. It's going to take, again, the right person, but I know Commissioner Baker probably has some comments. It's an opportunity, and I think a secession is a great idea. 26 years, eh?
Yeah. Seems like yesterday.
Yeah, you didn't have gray hair when you started, I remember. Of course, a lot of us were in that situation, so. Commissioner Baker.
Yeah, I'm very excited about this. I can't express how grateful I am for the work from DPW and Parks and Rec in general to make this happen. The asset management plans are going to be key in moving forward with all this. And one of the things that we need to think about as a city is, you know, we lack the revenue sharing from the state, and we need to start utilizing our assets to generate the most revenue we can. And I think by doing this now, it's going to be bumpy, and it's
going to be some bumps in the road for sure.
It's going to be a learning curve, but ultimately this is going to generate more revenue for our general fund, and eventually, hopefully, Parks and Rec can support itself just long term, you know. So that's
we're trying.
Good job. Thanks.
Anyone else? Thank you. We need a motion to move forward. Let's go, Commissioner Baker.
Motion to authorize the creation of the position of Recreation Coordinator within the Department of Public Works.
Support.
It's been supported. Any comments or questions? Roll call, please.
Commissioner Baker?
Yes.
Commissioner Collins?
Yes.
Commissioner Gary?
Yes.
Commissioner Miller?
Yes.
Commissioner Talentino?
Yes.
Commissioner Twardy?
Yes.
Mayor Bospis?
Yes. Motion carried. Thank you.
That concludes the items that are on the published agenda for the city manager's report, but if it pleases the city commission, I would like to invite City Engineer Basista back up here to provide an update on the business spur project.
Mm-hmm. Okay. That's near and dear to all of us, and the business community and the general public.
Well, I'd like to give you news, and I'd like to give you good news.
Well, yeah.
But unfortunately, I can't. The process since MDOT or since the contractor went back to work, the process through MDOT has been, you know, keep moving forward, and the contractor also has been keep moving forward. I've asked MDOT several times, what is our plan, plan B for when we can no longer move forward. And at this point, we're in what's called phase 3B for traffic control, which, as anyone who travels between 3 Mile Road and the Spur knows that 3 Mile Road is shut off from the Spur. That's part of a 3B to get traffic onto the roundabout. And at this point, the contractor was given 8 days to complete this phase, and tomorrow is 7 days since they started the phase, and very little work due to rain and snow is taking place. So I'm optimistic that at some point they're going to get together, the contractor and MDOT, and decide what to do to wrap up the project for winter. But at this time, I don't have that information. Our weekly progress meeting is tomorrow at 1 o'clock. There was a Friday status call that has been scheduled for every Friday since the lockout concluded, and last Friday's call was canceled. So I'm unable to provide an update since the last Tuesday's progress meeting. But again, Oliver and City Manager Turner and I have a meeting with MDOT tomorrow, 12:30, before the progress meeting, to talk about specifically how are we going to get traffic back on to the Spur from 3 Mile Road before winter sets in, and what the plan is to go forward.
And that's so very important, because they closed that, I understand, with not a lot of notification. And how you get around it is pretty difficult.
With no
without
notification.
Without going through businesses. And that's just not right. And they have to, I don't know how they get to that point, but they have to get it back open, and as soon as possible. I mean, not by, when the snow starts, but it's too inconvenient for people to try, especially in the dark, to try and find out where you're supposed to go.
I agree. My request, since they came back to work after the lockout, was to not proceed any further with the overall progress, but to stop where we were in the traffic control at that time and button it up for winter. But because of the contractual issues between MDOT and the contractor, MDOT was not prepared to make that direction, make that call to stop forward progress. And so we'll find out tomorrow and be able to update you after that.
Just a question, and I'll go to Commissioner Twardy. Does the city have any recourse? Can we move the barriers? You can't go through them because it's not accessible? Or is it something that, they just throw the barriers up and then people just have to find their way around?
Well, actually, the traffic control measure in place right now for 3 Mile and Mackinac Trail, you can get on and off 3 Mile from Mackinac Trail for southbound Mackinac Trail and eastbound 3 Mile Road. So that's the only movement for 3 Mile.
How about
The
westbound?
detour is posted for M129 to get onto the Spur. So there is a posted detour. It is a planned traffic situation right now. People are just coming to, if they're going west on 3 Mile Road, they're coming to the intersection. They are going south on Mackinac Trail and then cutting through Admiral and Wendy's. And that's what's happening, but that is not the posted traffic control.
Okay.
There is a posted detour.
Thank you. Commissioner Twardy.
I think one of the major concerns too is the drainage, just because right now the level of the street, and I know that they'll be building it up, but it's below where the drainage basins are, the catch basins and drains. And so when we had that really bad rainstorm, I know they all kind of blend together. I think it was it Thursday? I had heard of a few vehicles actually getting stuck and bottoming out and engines stalling in the deep water that was sitting out there. And so I know you're going to find the information out for us, but that was one of the things when I texted Ollie last week. I asked if you could come and address us specifically about that, because that, with snowfall and it being wet, and we could have wet snowfall potentially for another 2 months. So
Well, there was talk before the lockout that they weren't going to get to the point of putting that final wearing course on that would allow the water to get into the gutter and get into the catch basins. And so they were making provisions to get the drainage off the road with just the leveling course for the winter. So that was a concern that was being addressed, and I'm sure will get addressed for the winter.
Okay.
My main concern is how 3 Mile Road is going to get into the roundabout.
Yeah, thank you.
And they're going to make, supposedly the roundabout will be functional before winter?
That, right now, that's their plan, was when they moved into Phase 3B, after Phase 3B, that was to complete the business spur leg of the roundabout. There was a gap where they took down the signal, the Mackinac Spur signal. And so that phase was to complete that leg of the roundabout. And then another phase following that was 4A, was to complete the 3 Mile Road leg. They work in conjunction, though. So 3B, what they're under right now, completing the roundabout 3 Mile, the roundabout business spur leg. Once they finished that, the plan was to put traffic on the roundabout. And the plan was to put traffic on the roundabout with the pavement markings and signage and so forth that is part of the permanent. So the roundabout is supposed to work as it would under normal conditions in that regard.
Thank you. Commissioner Gary.
I think, Mr. Mayor, you had asked, is there any liability that MDOT or the contractor have at all? I know it's really hard to prove, but in talking to Linda Hoth, the visitation was down in the Sioux just because of the construction project. Now that every business on the spur is going to have an issue, and now in this winter, and I cannot believe that the quality of construction is going to be that good when they're dodging all of this stuff and then restarting and regrading, and it's going to be a nightmare. So do we have any recourse at all? Do the businesses have any recourse at all with, I mean, is it their loss of business insurance, or does MDOT have anything? I mean, we really, this is a really poorly done project this year.
I would answer just in terms of our typical projects, and it's a question to us. When businesses claim a loss of business, they would have to prove their receipts and so forth if they were coming, back to us for a loss of business, and very difficult to prove. But I can let the attorney speak to that.
City Attorney, any comments?
As you might expect, the state of Michigan enjoys broad governmental immunity, and when they undertake a project, they are immune from claims that are not of a contractual nature, such as you interfered with my business to the point that I lost a measurable amount of income. Also, the state has a requirement that in order to sue them, you have to put them on notice within 90 days of when your claim accrues. And that claim probably has accrued already, and so that 90-day clock is already running. These would be actions that might be filed by impacted businesses or individuals.
I'm assuming that we're going to get reimbursed all winter for the extra work that our crews are going to have to do to clear among the cones and all the 2 lanes that'll be open on the business spur.
I think DPW Director Morrow will work that out with MDOT. It's a separate issue.
Any other questions or comments? Thank you. Thank you, City Manager.
That concludes the City Manager's report. Thank you, Mayor and Commission.
Okay, thank you. Item number H, status reports. City Manager.
Thank you, Mayor. First item under status reports is an update on current legislation. A number of bills moving through the legislative process to differing degrees at this time. The first is Senate Bill 1031, which would exempt all new electric, gas, and water transmission and distribution system equipment from local taxation. This is an item that was reported to the City Commission previously. The total fiscal impact on local governments and schools across the state is $576 million. The proposal does not currently include a local reimbursement mechanism. Locally, that would translate to $472,000 for local units, including over $220,000 currently directed to the city of Sault Ste. Marie. Certainly this is in vein with past actions by the state in regards to eroding the municipal finance system through which services are provided, and this legislation was reported favorably without amendment by the Senate Finance Committee on June 6, 2018. Ironically, this is the same committee at which the legislation to reform the dark store theory has sat in limbo for many months. So certainly this is something that we're keeping an eye on with the upcoming lame duck session. House Bill 6049 is something also reported to the Commission previously and would have enacted significant changes to how local assessing is conducted within the state. This is one area where there was positive discussion, and the discussion significantly improved the legislation and reduced the burden that the previously proposed reforms would have placed on the city outside of developing a small number of administrative policies to reflect existing practice. House Bill 5723 is the bill which would require municipalities to consider the use of PVC piping and infrastructure. Also another bill previously reported to the Commission. This has not progressed any further, but another item we're keeping a close watch on during the upcoming final weeks of the session. Senate Bill 1108 pertains to the 21st Century Jobs Fund and results in an annual $75 million being directed to the Michigan Economic Development Corporation. This is important because funds flow through the Local Business Accelerator Fund, which aids in economic development supported by the EDC. As well, Senate Bill 703 to 707, the city has come out in support of these bills, which would enact a legislative finding validating the importance of tourism to the state and the need for resources. This was reported from the Senate Commerce Committee in January and is awaiting action on the Senate floor. Also, House Bill 6348 pertaining to the distribution of additional personal property tax reimbursements collected through the use tax beyond those that are in excess of the full reimbursements under existing statute through the past personal property tax reform. This is something that has garnered the support of municipalities and would be beneficial for the city in the long term if it's adopted as has been initially proposed. Also an update on the U.S. Supreme Court decision in South Dakota and Wayfair. The Michigan Department of Treasury issued a bulletin pertaining to this ruling, which permits online retailers to be taxed in a manner similar to brick and mortar businesses. Department of Treasury estimates that this would result in the collection of revenues approximating $203 million in the first year. Currently, we know that the sales tax estimates are just under projection from the past revenue estimating committee. So the uptick from the online sales would hopefully compensate for a little bit of that loss. Other legislative bills moving through the process pertaining to short-term rentals, fireworks, zoning restrictions, those are also prone to rapid evolution, and we'll be keeping an eye on that throughout the upcoming weeks. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Second item under status report is an update on the 2018 ballot proposal to legalize the possession, use, and cultivation of marijuana. And as city commissioners are aware, in November, Michigan voters will decide whether or not to legalize the possession, use, and cultivation of marijuana. Included for review by the City Commission is the ballot language and associated initiative language. Included for further review is an informational page developed by the Michigan Municipal League, which compares the Michigan Regulation and Taxation of Marijuana Act, the proposed ballot initiative, with the existing Medical Marijuana Facilities Licensing Act. Importantly, Section 9.6 of the proposed act states that the department shall begin accepting applications for marijuana establishments within 12 months after the effective date of the act. In the event the City Commission desires to prohibit marijuana establishments within the city limits, and if this ballot initiative passes, it could take action to adopt the included draft ordinance prepared by City Attorney Canello. In the event the City Commission desires to permit such establishments within the city boundaries, no action would be necessary. Alternatively, the City Commission, again if the ballot proposal passes, may also take action to limit the total number of such establishments. Depending upon the course of action desired by the City Commission, the Commission may wish to consider holding a work session or special meeting immediately following the election if the ballot initiative passes. Thank you. A third item under status reports is an update on the rental registration program review public engagement process. This is something that has been under development by city administration, and since the commission provided direction to administration to move forward with a public outreach effort, there has been significant internal discussion regarding the best way to reach the broadest cross-section of the community. As has been employed in previous large-scale efforts, some type of community survey is something that has garnered a lot of significant discussion. The intent of city administration at this juncture is to solicit input from 3 different groups, including citizens at large, landlords, and tenants. The questions for each of those groups are being developed currently, with plans to receive feedback on them from the Community Improvement Committee before finally requesting City Commission feedback. Currently, we're projecting that the questions would be presented to the City Commission at its December 3rd regular meeting. Just a note that 2014 community survey was done using SurveyMonkey, and this is a tool that we're looking at this time. With the existing databases, the city also has a very good concept of mailing addresses for both landlords and tenants, so we would expect significant outreach to those groups. Administration did research utilizing an outside source to develop questions, administer the survey, and analyze results, with quoted costs coming back between $10,000 and $15,000 for a turnkey service, with a written report analyzing the results. Certainly, should the Commission desire this direction, we'd be happy to do so. However, administration is confident with existing resources available, it can be able to obtain a reliable result for considerably smaller investment. Once released to the general public, it's expected the survey would be out for a period of 30 days. The data would subsequently be analyzed and made available at a series of open houses, sometime likely occurring in February, to gather additional feedback with roundtables and focus groups to follow thereafter. Additionally, the anticipated meeting with the public and property owners would also be anticipated to occur in February. Thank you.
Okay, anyone have, Commissioner Collins?
So if we use an outside source versus internal administration to administer the survey, would they potentially get better results or more participation?
Thank you for that question, Commissioner. It's quite possible, depending on the level of utilization of an outside resource. I know that there are some resources which would be able to go door to door to ask citizens questions about options.
Would that be inside the 10 to 15,000, or is that a whole nother ballgame?
I believe that would be pushing up closer to $15,000.
So my only concern is that I want to make sure that we're getting a survey on results of basically the populace, right? So making sure that everybody has basically a say in the survey. And are you confident that you guys have the ability to get a good sample size to do that?
Great question, Commissioner. I believe with the approach that city administration would take, we will have a very good outreach with the community, property owners, tenants, landlords. There would be a direct door mailer, which we would be proposing to be sending to every address, with perhaps a pin they could enter to take a survey online. Paper copies would also be available. And then with the additional structures of the focus groups and the open houses, we feel that that would give a very good cross-section for people who may wish to weigh in. Certainly, I don't believe administration has the resources to go door to door as the turnkey operation would. So certainly, if you have a company that goes and takes that approach to be able to ask questions directly to property owners, follow-up questions, that would be the additional cost, but it would yield additional comments as well.
Last question on this one. Who comes up with the questions on the survey?
So that's something that would be developed by city administration and would be routed through the Community Improvement Committee and ultimately the City Commission for the release.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Okay.
Fourth item under status reports is an update on the form-based code and its development. As commissioners are aware, at a special meeting on October 1st, the City Commission received a brief overview on the downtown form-based code from the consultants tasked with developing the same. As to the progress, Following the meeting, a draft version of the code was provided to city commissioners in electronic format. To continue the conversation on the code, administration has been in contact with the consultants regarding opportunities to have a teleconference specific to the implementation of the code itself. For instance, answering questions about its impacts on existing buildings, new construction, renovation, and the general citizen experience. It would be city administration's purpose for the content of the teleconference to be largely driven by commissioner questions as opposed to a predetermined agenda or presentation if the city commission is interested in scheduling a special meeting for this purpose.
Okay, any questions? How about meeting time for a conference? This would be a teleconference. It would be up at the Smart Zone or EDC building?
Certainly, we would be glad to schedule with EDC on that.
Okay. Anybody have a preference? You're looking at 1 hour. Could it be 4 to 5, 5 to 6, 8 to 9 in the morning?
9 to 10 in the morning?
9 to, doesn't matter to me.
3 o'clock in the morning?
Yeah. Or do we have it like on a off Monday? Again, that we would just.
Mornings work better for me, always. So
Mondays do?
any morning would work
Oh,
better.
morning.
For me.
Oh, mornings do?
Yeah.
Okay. Mornings work good for everybody? Tim? Commissioner? So if we went like.
Before 9. Before 9.
Before 9?
I have to open, my stores.
Okay. 8 o'clock, 8 to 9? On a given day?
Sure.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay. And thanks to the commission for the willingness for a additional special meeting. And finally, under status reports, city commission goal update, or update to the city commission rather, regarding the expansion of access for ATVs and ORVs. As commissioners are aware, administration has been conducting research in order to make progress on the city commission's established goal to support the expanded use of all-terrain vehicles on city streets. Existing ordinance provisions regarding off-road vehicles previously adopted by the city have been included for review by the commission. Existing state statute provisions regarding ORVs have also been included for review. And finally, ordinances regulating ORVs from other communities have been included for the commission's review. Importantly, the city's ordinance provisions essentially restrict the use of ORVs on city streets except for those specifically authorized by the commission. In contrast, at least 2 of the ordinances from other communities researched permit the use of ORVs on municipal streets for the purpose of providing access to and from areas where ORV operation is permitted, unless otherwise restricted by the local unit. In essence, those ordinances are more permissive and require their governing bodies to restrict the courses of travel through which they would not be permitted to go. As commissioners are aware, collaboration with the Michigan Department of Transportation as well as the Chippewa County Road Commission for East 3 Mile Road would be desirable in certain instances of working to expand access, and a map detailing roadways under the jurisdiction of other entities has been included for reference. Input from local organizations such as SORVA would also strengthen efforts to expand access. City administration, in order to fulfill the goal, is respectfully requesting further direction from the City Commission as to how commissioners envision this goal being accomplished. Thank you.
Commissioner Gary.
From my perspective, I like what Cadillac did. They just have one ordinance that covers snowmobiles and ORVs. So why recreate their wheel? Yeah.
Commissioner Talentino.
I agree with that. We're talking the same groups of people here. The snowmobiling has expanded to the ATV system or time of year, so I think we should really keep this simple. I don't think we need to reinvent the wheel on this at all.
And everybody understands the snowmobile policy that we have now. If you're going to a trail and 5 to 10 miles an hour and stop at every stop sign, and you're totally responsible. Sounds good. Does that fulfill the administration's need for additional information?
It certainly does. We look forward to future progress on this goal.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay.
And that concludes the status report section of the agenda. Thank you, Mayor and Commission.
Okay, thank you. Item I is matters presented by the public. Yes, ma'am. If you'd identify yourself for the record, we'd appreciate it.
My name is Sierra Krantz. For those of you that don't know me, I'm the former Vice President of Families Against Narcotics and currently serve on their advisory board. couple of you stole my thunder already, but I have a couple things that I just wanted to say. On the topic about the roads, I had movies that were 3 days late, no joke, because I have a small car and I cannot get up the business spur, especially when it's been raining so bad. Friday night, drove all the way from Seymour down to 6 Mile Road and back up Mac Trail because we weren't sure. It wasn't very clear if you could even get down there to get to the Dundee. So it's kind of scary to think that for the snow flying and everything that it's, I don't know, it's scary driving up there, like what's going to happen. So I just, from a voter's perspective, wanted to let you know it's really concerning. So we just hope to see some sort of change going on. Other thing that I wanted to say, and I've wanted to say for quite some time, is I know this may come as a shock, but we're all on the same team here. I serve on a board that I put a lot of time into this community. I believe in good things. I see a lot of Mayor Bossis. You show up to a lot of our stuff. I see you at other events. You've got a great leader here. I think we just need to kind of all pull together. It makes me sad to see things like this happen. Like everyone said, that a lot of time has probably been wasted. I hope from now on you guys can give each other the benefit of the doubt, work as a team. You know, it's really going to help organizations like mine in the long run. And exciting hearing some of the things that were going on tonight. And thank you for having me here. And I'm glad I didn't have to read through all this. Have a good night, guys.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Anyone else? Okay, thank you. Move on to the matters presented by the Commission. City Commission. Commissioner Gary.
I make a motion, we adjourn this meeting.
Support.
It's been moved, supported. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Thank you very much.